Hi, Dr. V here, former stripper, felon, now author, doctor, and keynote speaker. Look, here's the deal. I want to talk about Sean Diddy Combs. Cancel. I actually want to talk about what we can now call his victims. Because they have been saying a lot about Cassie Ventura being an 11-year on and off again girlfriend. She wasn't an on and off again girlfriend. She was a victim. And it's been proven in court. It's interesting to me that they did so much reporting about Combs's lawyers circling around him to comfort and console and support him. But who circled around his victims? And I wonder, because they tried to make this into like, is it about this or is it about that? What about the fact that if this would have been him doing this to men, I think there would have been a lot less tolerance. Because let's face it, the world's not protecting Black women. I also think this is very interesting because they tried to tack racketeering into it and it didn't work. They couldn't quite get there. But I do hope this sends a message or at least a notice to these moguls that are owning businesses and acting in all sorts of nefarious ways, including those that are elected and those that are projected and promoted to the top. At least now there is some reckoning. At least now there is some accountability. And I hope that it continues. But even more, I hope there becomes a disdain and a distaste for the victimization of women and for the acknowledgement that Black women must be protected. We have got to do a better job. And it shouldn't matter if someone has a great beat. I've said this before. Like, how good of a song does it have to be for us to say it's not worth it? Like, does it have to make you dance all the time or just some of the time? For you to be a co-signer into the victimization of women, and in this case, Black women. I don't care what Combs does. I care what he did and how his victims are feeling. So don't show me the reactions of his family. Don't show me the reactions of his fans. How are the victims? How are they feeling? How are their families feeling? How will this verdict, this partial guilty verdict, affect them? Because we saw him drag her down the hallway and no one showed up to encircle and support her. In fact, it was covered up for years. These actions were covered up for years. Why didn't more people do what Mace do, right? He exited. There must have been something going on there, but it was ignored. It was covered up. It was propagated. And now there's at least partial accountability. So for all the victims out there of sexual assaults and unfortunate circumstances and mislabeling of being called a partner, a willing participant, a girlfriend, instead of a victim, I apologize to you. And I hope this gives you at least some solace, some visibility, some recognition, and a smidge of peace. Because there is no beat good enough for me to be okay with the victimization of women.